Well, I guess we're going to have to go with the computer mic since I'm having so, all these other issues. Oh, crap. Uh, oh, good morning. Guten morning. Welcome to the Chocolate Mountain Show. I am your host. Eight Wind is Timeless. I am the holder of the continuous ball game created by the Hero Twins. I am the Galactic Daddy-O sitting on my galactic patio from Minnesota to the universe. Tonight, we are sponsored by Drakkar. For the man who has nothing, we're going to be able to have a contest to see who gets this very lucky box of Drakkar. Well, I'm back from my trip to Michigan. They didn't try to kill me this time, so I made it back. Oops, skipped a step. Brought this beer back from Michigan. Founders out of Grand Rapids. You can get this beer even probably where you are, and it is a porter. So pop them if you got them, smoke them if you want them. Chocolate, 100% chocolate is the best. Get all those good bitters in there. The bitters with the chocolate. Well, who's hanging? Perspective Gaming, how you doing? Hey, PJ, my man. Lorenzo, thank you. Loud and clear, thank you. Okay. Boo Sack, what is happening? The one. Seen the home run derby today. Sonny got knocked out the first round. Overstand Mocha. No, I ain't watched that shit. But I'll tell you what, if you look at the home run derby, what it should tell you is that the home run derby shows you that baseball is fixed. Who they throwing to? Who in what game do they throw like that? If it's supposed to be realistic. The home run derby shows you that that shit is fixed. I mean, it's just that pretty much that simple, that it is fixed. So I was watching a pitch. I didn't really watch much of it. I tell you, I'm still tired. Let me start off saying this. So on my travels, it took us 12 hours because we went to Lansing. My brother lives in Lansing, Michigan. And this is what I love about this trip. Used to be going through Wisconsin would be 55 miles. Well, then they switched it to 65, now 70. So you can drive about 75 and not really get bothered. But I'll say this is the first time I ever saw a pickup truck, four-door pickup truck as a cop car. I saw one unmarked Suburban stop a motherfucker. You go 70, the highways are wonderful. Let me say this. Let me start off with this. The highways through Wisconsin are wonderful. There are 10,000 cops. On my way, before I went into Illinois, we must have saw 100 officers, 100 cars. If you go an inch over the speed limit, they trying to get you. And Wisconsin, for anybody that ever goes there, if you get stopped, it ain't like when I was a cop, it was an outer state plate. We got our license. The ticket we gave them was their license. They pay the shit. We send the shit back to them. You dig? Not in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, you have to pay on the spot or you go to jail for however long it is. But let me continue. If you freaking go to, then you get it. And it's just funny how you go from these beautiful roads. And then if you take the 90 toll roads, and now something I didn't realize about toll roads, most of the toll roads was closed during COVID. We went through the toll roads. There wasn't no toll roads. Everything was closed. They wasn't even taking the cash machines was closed. So we sprinted through that shit. The roads got decidedly worse, even on the toll road. Now, for that trip, you have to go through Wisconsin is the majority of the trip. Then you go through Illinois. Then you go through Gary. Now, I'll say this about going through Chicago. I love driving a good car. I drove a S. Family has a 300S. Very fun car to drive. I love the paddle shift. Ain't too much you can't get through. But the roads are fucked up. I mean, the roads were fucked up. No, whiz through Chicago. And one of my things that I love is hitting that final bit of road when you get out of the city of Chicago heading towards the south side. It's like a snake. As I've said before, Minnesota, we have pretty much, we have the clover leaves. Milwaukee and Chicago have the snake highways. So the snake energy, but it's fun as hell driving a fast car through that shit, especially with traffic. And I saw a dude on a motorcycle just go in the middle of a bunch of traffic fast. He hit the middle of about 20 cars fast. And then cars are going 70 beside him. This dude just like woof, 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 turned over. Then we get through Indiana. I hit a pothole that I thought it was going to fuck the car up. It was so hard. I really did. We hit it so hard and I couldn't move. Sweat. Then we get into fucking Michigan. I thought Illinois, Chicago, and I thought freaking Chicago was bad roads. Crap. We get into Michigan. There ain't no infrastructure in Michigan, y'all. The roads sucked. Now, where my brother lives is on where I grew up was southwest Michigan. About 3 hours from Chicago. About 2.5, actually. No, we had to go to Lansing, which is another hour and a half away. And so we hit this highway called 169. I can't even describe it. No lights. The road was so bad. It was unbelievable. Oh, and then I hit a storm. I saw the storm. I saw some lightning hit the ground like miles away, and then we ran into it. And again, this S is all-wheel drive. And so even with that 5,000-pound car that's all-wheel drive, I had to still drive cautiously. Still drive cautiously. So then we get kind of near. We had to do a final corner to get, and it's like they have these. Anybody seen these? They're signs that direction point, and they light up. So it's so broke in Michigan, like they had one or two directional lights, and the others didn't work. So where it's the darkest, there's no light. Like when you get into it, there's lights, and where the darkest spots, no lights. So I'll say that. Somber. I had planned on doing a show with my brother. The last night was really the best night. Again, he has 3 younger children. So, having peace and quiet is kind of challenging at times because he does have younger children. Family met. They cremated my nephew Friday. And so they're going to we had to come back. I got some stuff to do. Family that came with me, we had some stuff to do. So we had to come back. We really couldn't stretch it to stay to Wednesday. But what's interesting is my nephew's mother lives in Dubai. She married a Saudi dude. She had to come from Japan because apparently her daughter, which was an in-law to me, but apparently her daughter got married. So we had to wait for her to fly into America. And I guess they had some kind of problems leaving Japan. So they didn't get there until I think Friday or Saturday. So they want to, now this is what's silly. They want necklaces to put the ashes in. Now that's very macabre, but to each his own. And then they're going to bury the ashes. So we came back. So it's like we learning more about what happened to him and the life he lived. And I'm not going to get into it. Last night was really the first night I slept in about 5-6 days. Wasn't really sleeping. It's funny when you drive a long ways. It's like Muhammad Ali would talk about when you get tired during a fight. You have a second wind. So I know coming back, like going, I never got tired. I was stopping smoking weed most of the time. But not sleeping all those days and then having to drive was a challenge. So Milwaukee, I got tired. But inside, I knew I would have a second wind. And sure enough, it kicked in as soon as I got to Milwaukee. And let me tell you the luck of Milwaukee. Milwaukee was packed. The Brewers were playing, and the NBA Finals is there. So when I go through Milwaukee, I always call my cousin. So we hit Milwaukee, I call my cousin. And she was like, "Oh, it's so good that you called me." She was like, my friends have backed out and can't go to the game. My cousin has tickets to the game, to the NBA Finals. And I'm in Milwaukee. And it's packed. I stayed on 94. All the highways are packed. And so I'm looking at my family went with me, and she had enough tickets for us to go. But I'm like, cuz I'm tired. I want to get home in the daytime, and I don't want to have to drive tonight because I'm going to have to stop and get a room. So I missed that opportunity to go to the game. I just drove through. So I'm still a little tired. Again, didn't rest. But Michigan is interesting. There's a lot of fear in Michigan about this thing. A lot of fear. And I'll say this. Some of my family didn't meet with me because I didn't take the plunge. And some of my family I did meet was reluctant. Because again, for not taking that thing. There's such a brainwashing there that it's interesting. They are totally in fear. I mean, I was just running into people left and right in fear. I remember I was at Target, and this man and his family, because again, it's saying when you wear a mask everywhere, it's saying you haven't taken the plunge. He had his children wearing it. He's wearing them. His wife is wearing them. And you could just see that they were blank. As I was reading these people, they were blank. And I remember one of the children, they touched a blanket or something or towel, and she rubbed her face, and their dad was like, grab her. Don't touch that. These people live under such fear that it's interesting. And my ex and my daughter, I got to see both my children, 2 of my children there. I got to see all 3 of my children there. But my older children didn't see me because I saw them briefly. And then again, they dissed me to go see my father. And then at the last moment, now we done drove from Kalamazoo to Battle Creek is about a half-hour drive. And we still got to go to Lansing, which is about another 45 minutes. So I rushed to go see my children. And then they tell me that they doing something. They're going to dinner. So I think my son's girlfriend. So we get in the car and we about to take off. And I dropped some crystals and a book off to a friend there. They call me and they's like, back up. So I back up. My son was like, well, I'm going to see your dad and my stepmother. Like my family wants to go see them. Not really. And we got to go backwards to drive somewhere I'd already been for like 3 hours. And then turn around and drive another hour and 40 minutes. So we didn't do that. So we went on, dropped the crystals and the book off to my friend, and we drove back to Lansing. And we had planned on doing the show with my brother, which was going to be pretty deep because we had some really deep conversations. I mean, we really did. But the last night, you know, we had went to a dinner. That's what my brothers and my family did. We had a dinner for the family that wanted to come in. So we met at Olive Garden. Really good food. I had some good shit. I didn't even know how to say that shit, but the shit was good. It was some glazed chicken and shit was good. And so we did a thing and we get back. And, you know, my brother's definitely feeling emotional because, again, he lost his son who was 33. And we're getting like, again, we're hoping his ex-wife and all the paperwork that's coming. So it was a lot. So he was feeling stressful and he just wasn't up to it. So I got all the equipment, charged the computer. So I was thinking the last day there, the children had settled down a little bit. Maybe we'd do a show, but he wasn't feeling up to it. So I didn't press him. So we didn't do it. So, hey, Valerie, it's kind of like there's only two sides. The fear monger is something I swear it is over Stan Mocha. It really is. Hey, Reese, peace. Thank you for coming. Hey, Dobie, thank you. It's great to see everyone. I truly missed our weekly, daily gatherings. Yeah, I mean, I just really wasn't up to it. And even now I'm tired. So I don't know how long I'm going to go because I am still kind of tired. My body catching up. But there are some good things about Michigan. The dispensaries are great. My brother had one around the corner. They can bring it to your car. You can go in the store. So you can drive up and say, I need this and that. And they'll bring it to the car. But with all the fear mongering, they want to keep everybody high. Like here, you get your alcohol in a alcohol store, beer store, we call it. There, the beer's everywhere. I love that. Everywhere I go to the little convenience store. They got liquor bottles. They got beer. I do miss that about Michigan. And the dispensary was really cool. Took a whole bunch of edibles and then on it. People really wear it outside here in the car. Oh, we passed one dude. It's like we was in Chicago when my family member said, look at this fucker. He's in the car by himself with that shit on. So what is it going to come through the air conditioning shit? And now it's just a lot of fear mongering. So it's a lot of fear mongering going on. So, well, thank you, Overstand. So it was interesting. Had a good time kicking it with my brothers, torturing because my nephew is 7. My niece was going to turn 4. We celebrated her birthday. I think her birthday's at the end of the month. And then I have a niece that's 2. And, you know, I torture children. I pick them up and I back break them. You know, you pick the child up and you give them a back breaker. And for some reason, they think that's funny and they laugh and they ask you to do it again. That's a pretty good job of being an uncle. But the really cool thing was I got to meet my great niece, you know, my nephew's daughter that passed. And she walks in and she looks just like him. She holds her face. Now, my youngest niece and my great niece favor. They look like my brother. The one looks like her dad. So it was interesting when she walks in, I'm looking at my 2-year-old niece and I'm looking back at her. Now think about it. My 2-year-old niece is this 5-year-old's aunt, if you understand that, because these are his brothers and sisters. These are my father's, these are my brother's other children. So that was kind of cool. Seeing her and meeting her. And it's funny watching them, a 5-year-old knowing how to take a selfie and cheese. And it was like I was looking at her, and then she put on the phone cheese face. So that was beautiful. And so spent a lot of time with them where they get to know me. Yeah, so it was cool. It was cool seeing other family members. My mother is now the oldest of this branch of the family. My cousin, my first cousin, she's in 70 or 71, maybe 72. She's the second, my first cousin, who I watched get married at 16 or 17 in the 60s. Take as much time. Well, thank you. Hey, Antoine. They wasn't wearing that shit at all. Yeah. They not. I mean, most of all people wasn't. It was in stores and of course the employees. I went into one store. They made us wear them in one store, but that was one store. It was up to you if you wanted to wear that shit. So, we ate went to Red Lobster. Red Lobster had some really good food. Overall, I'll say A+ in the food in Michigan. I didn't get sick one time. A+ on liquor in the stores, and an A++ for the dispensary. A -- for the roads. Driving was and I did a lot of driving because it's a long way to a lot of places, so it's kind of interesting. But that was all right. So, how have you been? Oh yeah. So it was cool. And again, anytime I go to Michigan and they don't try to kill me, that's a plus too. So it was smooth. It was smooth. My brother lived in a smooth area, shopping, buying the children stuff. We went crazy buying them stuff. So it was a good time. It was a good time spending time with him. I really wish we could have filmed our conversations because he's one of the few people that can really challenge me as far as awareness. And I know I can challenge him because I can get them wheels moving as we look at awareness. And we talk about this reality and how we're facing everything. And keep in mind, a lot of it was losing a child and especially losing a child that's on a drug addict. It's not and a parent, because again, we're talking about a 33-year-old person. And so we had family members that would see him and throw him them twos and fews, but this was a path that he took. However, he did have some mental issues, and he was seen panhandling, walking around. And so there were some changes lately that we've been kind of investigating. Or like Steve from Family Guy, when Lois spanked him. Hey, Adam. So thanks. So, it was cool. And again, I wish maybe I'll have him come on because we really did have some deep, deep conversations that were worth a teaching moments, really was. He's really got because he's moved recently, he's got his study and his information really categorized and organized, even much more so than me. My spirituality goes a lot into the continuous ball field and a lot of the American information, but he kind of taps into a lot of spiritual systems around the world. And then we kind of compare them to how we approach, how we get into it all. So we're having some great conversations. And maybe once, everything kind of, hey, Lorenzo. So maybe every time, maybe once things kind of settle down for emotionally, because it's a hard emotions. Even his mother felt bad. I mean, his mother did a lot for this child. She set him up for a year in an apartment. She bought him a vehicle. And when you have drug addiction, these things can be given away, thrown away. So the children brings out a different type of joy, and they keep you moving. Oh, yeah. It was funny. The first night, because I wanted to get there and spend all Thursday. So we left in the morning to get there. And so we was there all Thursday. We got there early in the morning, so all Thursday. I beat up my nieces and nephews so bad where they fell asleep. My 2-year-old niece, after beating her up so bad, she fell asleep on the floor. So it really worked them out, me playing with me. And I love children. I've loved children my whole life. As far as playing with children, being active in children, I just love children. And so I was wearing them out. They were coming to me, and I just playing with them. My daughter's about to be 10 next month, so she's at that age where she's grown out of that. So you might answer this, but do you think they're gonna let the Bucks come back and win the chip? Yeah, I think definitely the Bucks. They don't like. They really don't like to give new. They don't like to give teams championships that haven't won before. They really don't. And then today, or the game yesterday, they kept showing Jabbar and Oscar Robertson. I don't know if y'all caught that. They kept showing Jabbar and Oscar Robertson. So that's what I saw too. I'm like, because they were saying Middleton was the big O, and they were saying it was the first playoff game they won since Kareem threw that hook in the corner to beat Boston. Of course, they lost in Game 7. But that appears to be the script. The script to me is that that Milwaukee wins it. I would be very surprised, very, very surprised if the Suns win. So I wasn't surprised when they won. I was a little disappointed that circumstances wasn't better where I could have went to the game, because Milwaukee was lit up. But I was talking about last week or last time I came live. Milwaukee skyline in downtown ain't nothing. Like if out of all the towns in the Midwest, Milwaukee's probably the most boring. So as I said before, people ain't wanting to really be in Milwaukee or Phoenix. Perspectives Gaming. Siova, you sneak in here? And so I wasn't surprised they won. And I've said that before, that more than likely they was going to let Milwaukee win, just because that's kind of how the NBA does it. The NBA tends to want teams that have won it before to win it. Now, I know Toronto was the exception, but I've said this before. Toronto played in the very first NBA game, and that is why they let Toronto win it. I don't think they're going to let Phoenix win it. They just don't seem to do that. No. And the NBA has proven me wrong, but again, I think I put pressure on them, and y'all losing money because don't nobody want to be in Milwaukee. And you making people stay in Milwaukee again until Wednesday? Yeah, nobody wants to be there. Now, you could have went to a baseball game. They do have the Potawatomi have a big casino in Milwaukee, but it is a boring town. Oh, okay. See, over the technician is in. Thank you for joining me. So that is my guess. Now, the other thing I want to talk about as far as hooping is, anybody surprised at the exhibition losses? Nigerian team was coached by Mark Brown. And if I'm not mistaken, Mark Brown coached Cleveland. But Mark Brown also coaches what, with the Lakers? No, Golden State. Now, one thing to notice, and I mentioned this if you watched the short video I did about basket manipulation in the Olympics, and if the Olympic teams are fixed. The Olympic games are going to be fixed. All the Olympic sports are fixed. I mean, think about what was it when Phelps won? Remember when Phelps, check this out. Remember Phelps got out swam and Phelps touched low and the dude touched high and Phelps beat him because he touched low? Remember that? The dude didn't touch, like the dude was there, but because Phelps touched a different position, he won. And the dude, instead of the dude just touching low like Phelps did, dude touched high and Phelps beat him. Oh, Lorenzo, I've been saying that. Remember where'd he go? But I'll get back to that one. So I won't forget his question. Whoops. Oh, shit. But one point I did want to make is okay, there we go. Okay, one point I wanted to make is Australia won tonight and Nigeria won the other day. Now, we already know that the NBA has set up the league in Africa. The NBA helped set up the league in Australia. Most pro leagues around the world, the NBA has their hand in setting them up. So it's to the NBA's benefit that these games are won by these other players in these leagues that the NBA has set up. If you follow me. So don't be surprised if these pros get knocked off, because it's all about highlighting un-American players. That's what it's about. Some of y'all might see this, but I say in 30 years, there's going to be more players from somewhere else than is America. And let me tell you about this too. Baseball should be dominated by South American players. The continuous ball game was created in Mexico, or South America, excuse me. The Oman created it. So it's naturally right that South American players should dominate. This is where the game comes from. I have no problem with them. They're part of the Americas or the island people. But you see what they're doing? They've been highlighting these players from Japan, Korea. See that? Because they don't like that these they don't like that these players from South America, Mexico dominate. They don't like that. So that's why this dude gets to pitch and he gets to bat. See how they even want to replace them? And I've said anybody can make it from the minor leagues. Anybody. But do you see how they want to replace them? And you see that's why it's a push for the Asian players now in baseball. Because, and to finish what I was going to say is, in the next 30 years in the NBA, it's going to be 50-50. It's going to be 50% players from other countries, 50% Americans. Because they want to push the local boys out. And as I said with Giannis, Dirk Nowitzki, what was his name? Or Exum, Patty Mills. Take Dirk Nowitzki and Giannis their first 2 years. If they was American players, they wouldn't have made it. They would not have made it. They'd have been cut in their first 2 years. Many American players with them same skills. Giannis couldn't shoot when he came in, like Ben Simmons can't shoot. But yet they was patient. Put him in them summer leagues. Dirk Nowitzki, same way. When you see Charles Barkley and they got to play against the Dream Team, that's no accident. They was pushing Dirk. But if y'all remember, when Dirk first went, he may have played good against the Dream Team. He sure didn't play good his first 2 years. Now, Lorenzo say, I've been saying that. Remember, the Bucks haven't been in the finals since 74. Kareem 74. It's 70 years since the Bucks have been in the finals. You have to win 4 out of 7 games to win it. Oh, and look at the this is the other geometry. The series is 2-1. The score was, what is it, 130 to 102, something like that? No, 120 to 102 or something like that. So it was like the score, it was 120. So it was like that 1-2 even in the score, Lorenzo. So Chris will continue being the losing mascot of the NBA. That's funny, Valerie. And Greg Deep, what's happening? I don't think I saw your comment. Team yesterday, they looked like they packed it in. Year in international basketball. Yep. Yeah, that's why. They yep. Call Coach K. U.S. taking the L's. Yeah, the one. All non-American players can shoot. All the non-American players can shoot. Not all of them can. Giannis can't shoot. And Ben can't shoot. Ben come from Australia. He can't shoot either. Stavic was nice, though. Jovic. You see Devin Booker not play the whole fourth quarter. It's a joke. And then they want to say they rested him. No, they just packed it in, like he said. They really wanted to win. They sure would have played their best player in the final quarter. Yeah, 120. Yeah, so you see that 120, 100. And it's 120 is still the 1-2 in the series as it 2-1. I mean, it's the same. You see the malking. That's a malking even in the score is a malking, if you follow that thinking. So Suns got left on the 76 for a minute. They did. Hey, Lobo. Phoenix is 100. Phoenix scored 100 of the other night. No, that's a good point. So we see the malking. We see the malking going on, even with that. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised they get upset another game. That somebody put in there. CO I think put in there the year of the international player to push international play and to push American players out. It's just that simple. And you can't really look at it any other way. And again, for those of you that are around to see this in 30 years, because in 30 years, I'm going to be in the 90s. Damn, if I'm going to be caring about some ball. But my point is, you're going to see more and more of it. You're going to be showing more and more. And I'll say in the continuous ball game, it was nice going to places where I done slammed on mugs. I have to say that gave me a little extra energy. Some of the gyms where I played ain't even there anymore. That's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, this spot right here is where I slammed it, and there's no gym there. The gym is like a couple 100 feet over. So that's kind of funny. Devin looked injured, though he was limping. I don't know. 76 was a great. Westfall died at the start of the season. There you go. He sure did. 76 was the age of Westfall. And Westfall played with Boston, and he played with Phoenix too. Because remember, Westfall called that timeout against the Celtics, which, advanced the ball. Because I think that was the first year. 76 was the first year you could advance the ball to half court when you called a timeout. And then Garfield Hurd shot the turnaround, which was more than likely manipulated. If I catch that, I'll do a video to see if that was manipulated or not. Could have been manipulated. Those of you remember that game. So that's what I see, though. So that's the interesting aspect of it. And then they still got the thing in the air of Rodgers. Is Rodgers going to play? Is Rodgers going to, it's funny. They accumulate all these fines, and then when they start playing. But I remember when Brett Favre came to Minnesota, he didn't do training camp. Brett Favre came in weeks before it started, and Brett Favre, they had a good record. It was like 12, 13-2, 13-3, something like that. When they got cheated and they broke Brett Favre's ankle against New Orleans, they had New Orleans beat, and they broke Brett Favre's ankle. So don't be surprised he don't go in until the end of training camp. He'll be fine. He's in shape. He's active. Oh, and let me touch this. On I know on Sly's show with Nick last night. That young lady that didn't get to race in the Olympics, is some shit starting in August that she gonna race. She's already signed up to do the 100 and 200. And remember, professional track, they get a fee for showing up, and then they get a performance fee. So, it ain't when they race in these kind of things, they get paid. So she's already, so the Olympics, right when the Olympics end, this chick is in another race. So she ain't hurting. Hey, James, what's happening? The Saints are such a trash team with that dome. And this is the thing about the MCA dome. The same people that made the Metrodome and the Silver Dome built that motherfucker too. And they ain't do nothing but fix it up a little bit. And I've said that little short quarterback Breeze, I ain't know. When you got to look straight up in the air to pass downfield, and when people don't do this, when you 5'10", 5'11", all you got to do is get everybody do this, and go back. And if you got the NFL Network, go back and look when they ever got the Saints and watch how many times they don't put their arms up. They don't put their hands up to block his passes. So it's scripted, and you can see that it's scripted like that. So I'm going to call this play, and if you react that way, it'll look real. And that's how it's done. And again, put a slow player on a fast player. But as I said to Brother Nick last night, we're the all-out blitz on me. I don't care if Dion was on me. Dion ran a 4.2. I ran a 4.4. And I'm big as him. Yeah, he ain't staying with me man-to-man. So, and my jumping ability, put it up. So I'd have been like, okay. I'd have been looking at the quarterback, and hopefully, usually I played X or Z. So, yeah, I love when teams blitz and I was man to man, and we had hot routes. You blitz, we going on a hot route. Quarterback looking to me, and my other receivers, we seeing an all-out blitz. Yeah, we like them. We don't care who's back there. Ryan. You think the Raiders are going to have a good year? I wouldn't be surprised. They've been wanting a franchise there, and they saw how well. Remember what the hockey team did. The hockey team did the reverse of what the Washington team did. When the Washington team, I think it was 72, they went to the finals and got swept. Vegas, their first year, the hockey team went to the finals, got swept. So don't be surprised that basketball is to follow in Las Vegas. Remember, they already had a rookie league in Vegas. So don't be surprised in a few years that Vegas will have a pro basketball team too. Don't be surprised. And a pro baseball team as well. And then this year, kiosks is going to be in most NFL stadiums. I know it's going to be in the one here. So keep that in mind. That was a 49-50 season 71 years ago. Also, the Bucks won. Let me see. Breeze is a Hall of Fame bum. I agree. Hey, James, peace. Get them likes. Oh, the interception fired through an NFC Championship game was one of the most scripted moments I ever saw. But though, remember, the man had a broken ankle too. He had a broken ankle. The play before, they called roughing the passer. The very next play, they did it again and broke his ankle. So even if the Vikings would have went to the Super Bowl, Favre wouldn't have played. They broke his ankle. That's why he wasn't effective the following year. He didn't go to camp the following year. He had surgery that summer. So it's not that it was scripted, but he just didn't have the ability either. That interception he threw, he didn't have the ability because, again, they broke his ankle. But Ryan, I think I might agree with you that Oakland will have a decent, or not Oakland, the Vegas team will have a good team. Jannard, what do you think about the Kwame Brown situation? I don't really want to talk about him. I mean, he ain't talking about scripted sports. Kwame is not talking about scripted sports. Remember, what is Kwame, 47, 48? He's about to get his pension in his 50s. You think he getting $300,000-$400,000 in pension. So you think he's going to talk about scripted sports? And it's funny, when I started getting on him about we don't need more recreational centers. We need vocational centers to teach real skills. Now he's picked up on that. But remember, when the brother first came on, he was talking about we need more gyms and youth centers because that's what they're told to say. They're told to say we need more gyms, be entertainers. No, we need vocations. We need to teach young men vocations. And I had a cousin, I remember, talk shit to me. He was like, where I was a cop at, I couldn't make very much money. And let me tell you how this went. But what was done? During my generation, when I went into college, my brother's father and I couldn't, if I wouldn't have got a scholarship, I couldn't have went to college because my parents couldn't afford to pay for me to go to college. I'd have more than likely had to go to GM, and GM was dying when I graduated. I could have got in there a couple of years and would have had to move somewhere else to continue working for GM. But that's how I would have had to go to college. But I got some relatives, my ex, dirt poor. All their college was paid for. All their college was paid for. Here's a dude trying to talk shit to me. His parents were so poor. He got opportunity I couldn't get because my parents made too much money. My ex-wife, dirt poor growing up. 2-3 room house. No running water in there. She grew up in the 70s, 80s, early 80s. She's a couple years younger than me. No running water. Dirt poor. My cousins lost their trailer repossessed. They living in a goddamn school bus. This dude want to talk shit to me, but yet he went to school for free. No, they don't. I don't think they do that anymore because the premise was right. The premise was right. You come from poverty, we'll help you go to school. That premise was right. I'm not going, I'm not hating on that. But I'm saying the way these conservatives talk, you got opportunity that I couldn't get because my parents were successful. And your daddy was kind of a bum. My uncle was kind of a bum in some ways. Mechanically inclined, but kind of a bum in some ways. So because your daddy was a bum and my daddy was productive, I got penalized if I wouldn't have got a scholarship. So the Magic moving to Las Vegas, that's a good move, I will say, Jack. What do you think about the U.S.? Yeah, I talked about that, James, already. It's all scripted to help those teams from out of states, to help the other countries. Yeah, Kwame's definitely an agent. That's it's no way to get around. It's controlled opposition. I don't give a fuck about any, like when he had Joe Brown on there, you had to know he was controlled. I mean, you've seen the people he bring on there. So you can't say that this is organic with him anymore. It's all controlled, and he talks about he don't got people, but that pension, that NBA pension is out there for him. He ain't losing that. So he ain't gonna lose that, y'all. So he's 39. Okay, so shit. He ain't gonna get his pension until he get in the 50s. So he got 10 more years till he'll get pension. Well, no, he got 10 plus years till he get pension. So you think he blowing that? You think that non-disclosure agreement he's going to violate? He ain't. But it come when he get 50, like Iverson's getting his pension when he gets from Reebok, when he gets 50, and Iverson's getting the NBA pension. Now, this is what's interesting with Iverson. O.J. Simpson's pension is asset protected. I think Iverson's pension against his wife is asset protection as well, his ex-wife. And so even though I think she's going to get half of his Reebok money, she shouldn't be able to get half of his pension money. And Iverson gonna get $300,000-$400,000 for the rest of his life once he turned 50. So he gonna be all right. So Kwame, you think he gonna throw that away? He ain't gonna throw that away. He's a distraction. There you go. He's a distraction. So that's why I don't even want to talk about him. Suns win the next two. They would win it 4-1 vlogs. In 41, Kobe at 41. So it's a tribute to Kobe, perhaps as well as under agendas. Yeah, that's good. Thanks, vlog, for having adding that. I appreciate it. Kwame is always some dumb YouTube beef. Yeah, he's beefing with So it's like, what's the difference? What did we see the indigenous community do to the New York cats? It's constantly beefing and constantly taking down other brothers. So it's the same shit. He's moving from one brother to the other. So I'd rather move on from his. He's a mark. He's a lame. He's a country ass lame, and he was at the right time at the right place. That's all. So, outpeaked Iverson $1 million for life. Reebok paying Iverson $1 million per year for life. Yeah, but it doesn't kick in. The 50 million or 55 million doesn't kick in until he's 50 something. I don't even know if it's just 50. So, your thoughts on the Haitian president being killed? Okay, let me say this. He was the president. And I don't know any president in the world that doesn't have security. Now, remember when they killed, what's his name? They got killed in Africa in the 70s. Not Sadat. Yeah, Sadat maybe. His army people dressed in army uniforms shot him while he was at the podium. So you only get killed in your castle, in your room, while with the help of your military or your security. So keep that in mind. And they are still part of the U.S. So CIA had their hand in that. Something they didn't like about him. Hey, Gray. They're comparing Booker to Kobe, Renzo. Or Suns win 4 games. That makes 3-1. Remember, with 6 years that Chris Paul team, he's going 3-1. Each time he loses that 3-1 lead. That would be your 666. CP3 is 36. That's what I would see. That's probably even it. They're gonna win 1 game and then they're gonna throw it away again. Because that's probably the agenda. Is that they're gonna win the next game. Suns win the next game to get that 3-1, and then Paul is like Harding. They're the 2 players that lose 3-1s the most. They said former U.S. operatives killed him, of course, but with the help of his own people. They rode on him like he was a cartel leader, no shootout. Booker hasn't done anything. He needs more on his resume. What do you think about Chicago rapper who, I don't know, that's, snuff films. It's a snuff film, and that don't make you sick watching that? Like, who knew where he was at that given time? That shows you they was watching him. Just like the dude get out of jail and get shot in front of the jail. How can you come out of a prison and get shot in front of the prison, and the prison people ain't responding right away? So you're just telling me that every day people can come out of prison and you can just shoot them coming out of prison like that? I mean, it's that easy now that you can just shoot them coming out of prison? And 60 sometimes said there was 60 rounds. So don't they got guns in the prison? What did they do? The prison didn't do shit while all this shooting going on. Well, it's a shooting on the outside. We don't give a fuck. It's shooting on the outside. We'll just hide in here. We'll call, hey, there's some shooting up here. No, they're not nothing inside. They're shooting outside. Oh, well, fuck them. Let them shoot him. So inside job. How do these people know the exact minute he coming out? Well, we're going to sit here all day. This nigga's supposed to get out today. We'll You know, is somebody talking to them in the prison, telling them he coming. This is how they operate. So they knew. So they was able to be in position, have a reason, you know, obvious. And it's like it ain't everybody getting out at the same time. It ain't always a flock of motherfuckers getting out. So for them to be there that precise moment, yeah, there was some help involved in that. I thought it was Suns representing the new currency and the bucks, the dollar, or the old world. Like they're getting rid of the dollar, but also might be off. Okay. KTS Dre, they shot him. They say Lightfoot got the force standing down. Wow. The Olympic scripting, what agenda they trying to push on these games? That's a good point. The story didn't, it didn't make sense. They always release on the 12th. Okay, Ethan, thank you. I wasn't sure about that. They always release on the 12th. From prison, though? What if your days become before the 12th? You just got to wait till the 12th? I mean, I haven't taken dudes. I've never picked anybody up from prison. I've took a lot of dudes to prison because I ran a little security joint where we was taking dudes to prison. We was taking juveniles to court. Like we'd take them from the juvenile facility to court and have to sit with them at court. Or if they was recessing, we'd have to sit with a little motherfucker. I had to slap a little dude. He just thought he was really bad. And we was in a room with no camera and he was talking shit. And I just smacked his little ass. Like, okay, what else you got to say? The Olympic scripting, again, we see it every time. It's always an agenda driven. It's like, what's her name, Biles, the little girl? What is the odds of you adopting a child, two parents that had the money to put this girl through intensive gymnastic training? What's the odds of that? Most of the time, well, sometimes when people get adopted, it ain't money like that. She went to a home that had money like that. What's the odds of that? What's the odds that she just goes to a family wealthy enough to put her through that? Not very good odds. So it's every Olympic is a script. Every Olympic, there's nothing organic about the Olympics. It's all scripted. Remember in 72, they knocked down, or maybe it was 76, they knocked down Mary Decker. She's like probably going to win, and all of a sudden she trips, and then they're making a 30. Oh, it wasn't, no, it's always been scripted. And again, go to the U.S. basketball game. Biles, an asset. I don't know if she's an asset as well as created. She was created. Same thing, same way with Zion, same way with LeBron. Some kind of relationship to a prior person that had some skills in some way. So she created. She could be an agent too. Hey, Amber, thank you for joining. So she could be an asset. It's assisted by the force to keep the war going because the blood was spilled. I'll say this too, like look at Afghanistan, the longest war in U.S. history. But keep this in mind. Find a place in history where these motherfuckers ain't been to war. Find a time in history where these people ain't been to war. This is one of the most bloodthirsty countries in the history of man, run by imbecile psychopaths. The 1980 Miracle on Ice, scripted as well, I'm sure. Oh, definitely scripted because it gave popularity to hockey, but popularity to the Olympic men's hockey. And it gave overall popularity, people wasn't caring. That's during the Winter Olympics. People didn't care about the Winter Olympics like that. You got to be a real fan to want to watch skiing, bobsledding and shit. And there was hockey. People wasn't caring that shit. But because the American team did so well, and remember, they beat the Russians in the semifinals. I'm trying to think who they beat in the championship. Swedes. I think they beat the Swedes in the championship. But when you watch it, it's like they beat it. Again, it's that Cold War fake shit. But this country has been to war. I'm going to get back to my point. This country has been to war every year except when the 4 years Jimmy Carter was president. The 4 years Jimmy Carter was president was about the only time these bloodlusting people wasn't at war. The imbecile psychopaths wasn't at war. And I guess I'll get into this now. There's part of what they want to call the critical race theory goes that these people's DNA makes them bloodlust. That's part of it. It makes their bloodlust. And I've said before, if my background was what their background is in America, I would want to erase too, their bloodlust. But one thing you've got to understand is, and if you don't think there's a bloodlust in these people, European supremacy is a mental illness. And if you don't think this is true, look up when they was trying to integrate just schools. That is not normal hate. Just go back and look at these films when they're just trying to take people in schools and look at how these Europeans react. How do you hate a person so much that you don't even know because they want to go to school with you? Look at the faces of these people. They kind of singled out one of the ladies and they showed her today. She's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. When they was doing that shit, they wasn't embarrassed. But how do these people have so much hate for people they don't even know? And if you saying that ain't in their DNA? Remember the young boy you can look up where they killed in Texas? When they chained him and put him over the fire and they're raising him up and down on the fucking fire and they cheering every time he goes up and down. They cheering and shit. Y'all remember that? Y'all hip to that? And then as the young man is trying to climb up the chain, they cut his fingers off. So this ain't a bloodlust. This ain't in their DNA that they're so hated. I mean, this land is founded on murder and hate. So it is in their DNA. I mean, there's more, I've said this before, there's more prisoners from Europe, especially England, that came to America than was sent to Australia. I mean, who else destroys a 400-year-old tree and takes a picture in front of it with it not any regard to the history this tree has been through? Remember what Europeans did first. They destroyed their forests in Europe first. They killed their buffalo, and then they come over here and kill our buffalo. So there's a bloodlust, and you know, this is the thing about it is they have our poor people going to armies, and we had a bloodlust. As I said before, watch Ken Burns' thing on Vietnam. And you've got a European saying that the killing becomes normal after a while. I have family that fought in World War II. My great uncle fought in World War II, all the way from Africa all the way up. He was in the Battle of the Bulge as well. He came up. He was under Omar. He stayed under Omar Bradley. And then he switched back. He started with Patton. He was a support unit for Patton, support tanker unit. Then when Patton got kicked out, he was still under Omar Bradley. So when Patton was given the Third Army that happened during the Bulge, my great uncle was there. He ain't never say killing was easy. The killing becomes normal. I ain't never hear him say that. Now, I'm not trying to point out anybody or make anybody turned off. I'm saying reality is you got to look. Now, there's imbeciles in everybody's family. You know, there's psychopaths, but I don't know. There's a hate there that you can't even explain why the hate is there. Actually, I do like skiing, especially down here and snowboarding, because I'm actually from Wisconsin, so I guess I do enjoy some winter events. They even spread the bloodlust to our youth. Well, I've said this before. When we had this Floyd stuff, it was the 15-year-olds, the 20-year-olds that led the organic movement before Black Lives Matter came. And this is who they're arming. Correct? It was triple homicide committed by her brother. I used to work at a prison. There's no way they could have gotten shot without an officer in the tower seeing it happen during the shooting. I would say yes and no. Some prisons, there ain't really no towers facing out like that. You know, the towers are generally set up, and it ain't people in the towers all the time anyway. So I don't know if I quite agree with that. Right. They was proud to be doing it. Barbaric behavior. Oh, Amber's in here. Thank you, Amber. If I missed you. I'm glad you mentioned that. When Kanye said slavery was a choice, our people got mad at him for saying that, but we really didn't look into what he meant by saying that. Do you think that sports athletes will step up and expose the riggings? Nah, it's a disclosure agreements they'll never do. They'll never give up that disclosure agreements. So it's a bloodlust of a community. And so it is a mental illness, and it is in their DNA. I mean, their history shows this. I mean, how is it that this continuous war? I read a book by one of Bush, I think, what was his name? General Clark, maybe. I read his book, and he talked about continuous war, and that's what we're seeing now. And that's what they wanted. They want continuous war somewhere. They want war somewhere. That is how they operate. That is how they make money. Continuous war. That's what they wanted, and that's what we've had since 9/11. And I said before, don't get fooled by when they were saying Cheney owned Halliburton. No, he didn't. The Bushes bought Halliburton in 47. And something I see a lot of other people like saying is, look it up. My mother be throwing that shit at me because I be saying that shit to her. Now she wants to throw it at me. Look it up. So that's their way of life, is continuous war. And I've said before, if they didn't have a bloodlust, what would a country boy in Mississippi give a fuck about what happens in Hawaii? Why did these motherfuckers, after that shit, these motherfuckers in numbers, I mean, hundreds of thousands of people joined the army, and it wasn't us. Hundreds of thousands of them joined the army. Look it up. Hundreds of thousands. They were shaming Hollywood dudes that didn't join. Baseball athletes that didn't join. They were shamed into joining. So, hey, King Kane, once again beefing. Yeah, Milwaukee in 7. This is just like the Nets versus Bucks series, second round, where Bucks was down 2-0. I think that's a good point. I kind of agree to that too. Check this. Simone Biles' brother had been cleared on the triple homicide charges because of lack of evidence. That is funny, but not surprising. That is funny, but I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised. I was just thinking that Bucks might actually win, especially how they was down 2-0 against Brooklyn. Yeah, they made it back. Thank you for joining. Hey, Jay, where's the basket manipulation? It's always every game. Again, last night I got in. I ain't really watched the game, but once I saw the way it was going, you could see the script was for them to win. And then Booker sat down, so I unpacked and shit. So I really didn't even watch the game much. And then I was in bed. Again, I didn't sleep. I think in the last 4 or 5 days, I had slept maybe 3-4 hours in 4 or 5 days. Like when I drove last night, I was up 30. When I drove yesterday, I was up more like 2 straight days without any sleep. So I didn't watch it, Jay. So that's why I didn't do any last night. And I was watching the one I showed today. You can look back. I showed the one today about the Olympics. But these dudes in the Olympics, they know. To shoot, you got to have form. You can't just have your feet any kind of way to be a successful shooter. If the Bucks win, it would be 3-2 because they don't want to copy who wins the games exactly like they did for Brooklyn. That's a good point. They do like to mix it up to because again, they're going against the bettors too. And the NBA is always on the side of the bettors. The NBA's and the refs is always on the side of the bettors. They're looking at how the money going, and that's how they decide games. So that's what you got to understand about scripted sports. It's a moving thing. It ain't set in stone. It's a moving way to do it, but they script the way to do it. I mean, it's just like the Globetrotters. I always talk about the Globetrotters and the playing music, but the NBA game is scripted the same way. They've got where certain teams get runs. They go on a run, and you're going to get so many points. But it's like the Globetrotters. They do tricks for so long, and then they turn around and they play ball. So do you see, the NBA games is very similar. It's like you look at a low, and one team makes a run, the second team makes a run. This is how they script it. Jay Musick, good point on that State Farm commercial, predictive programming. Yeah, you see that. Script wouldn't be verbatim. Bucks win game 5 and lose game 6 instead of vice versa. Oh, okay. But I still think the Bucks, just because of the history of when you see one team that has never won and one team that has won, you can kind of see that they're more than likely going to give it to the team that won. So there was a guy who predicted the Bucks would defeat the Suns in 7 after the 16 finals with a score of 115-120. The next game 7 at the end. Purposely fouled Lopez 2 more free throws and 115-113. I showed in that Nets game where they let the dude travel. What was it, George? Or was one other player? I mean, how many? Paul George did it where he jumped up the air, came down and shot. But it was another dude I did a video about. This dude, and it was for the point fixing. It was point shaving. They needed that point, so they didn't call it. But this dude jumps up in the air, comes down, and then jumps again. Paul George does the same thing. Now you telling me that in a professional game that play is going to be missed twice. That type of play where the player jumps up in the air, comes down, and then jumps again, 2 games, that's going to be missed. No, that was point shaving. Certified puppet that's down with the oath. So those are things to consider. When you look at this thing, these are things that you got to consider, that these things are like this for a reason. So it's all scripted, and they act like it's did you notice they always put the camera on Chris Paul, and Chris Paul is good at the failure walk. Watch if they get a 3-1 lead, then they blow it in the failure walk. They showing Chris Paul, he's good at the mad failure walk. I noticed when I watched them put the camera on Paul, and they've done that continuously when he fails like he does. So Chris Paul is the lovable loser. He gets paid for losing. Without scripting, the Suns would be trash. You telling me they're the worst team in the league, then they add old washed up midget Paul and they in the finals. That's a good point. And not to say, like, I played at my top form at 36. I admit that. I could still play. Not saying they can't play, but Paul wouldn't be starting on teams. If it was real, he would not be starting. You can't tell me there ain't no young dude better than Paul playing in the G League. Shit, this dude's playing in college better than him. And you notice he get open shots most of the time. Do a little move, and all of a sudden the other person go the wrong way. Chris Paul in trouble. They won't be giving Westbrook a ring, so they won't give him one either. I think the same thing. And I said the same thing about Harden. Of all the bad predictions I made, that was one thing that I was right. I told everybody months ago that they was not going to let the Nets win. That was one thing I was right about, because they're not going to let Harden win one. And if Harden play again with them next year, they ain't going to win next year. That's why I wouldn't be surprised they get rid of it. If they want the Nets to win, they're going to get rid of Harden. Again, the Nets ain't never won. So the odds of them winning ain't very good. Not washed up midget. Yeah, that is a good one. Washed up midget. And so that's what we're looking at. And then we've got football season about to start in a couple of weeks. So all that's winding up. And then this Olympic stuff. And it was interesting. They kind of did a dig. Skip or somebody did a dig at LeBron. He said LeBron didn't play because he's around. He's promoting his movie. And that's something I didn't take in consideration about LeBron, is that he was going to have to travel to promote this movie. And that's the one thing I didn't take into consideration on saying why I thought he's going to play in the Olympics. I didn't think about that, because when you make a movie, you got to promote it. Did you catch the history between Chris Paul and the referee Scott Foster? CPO is 12. Yeah, somebody, Lorenzo, I think you brought that up before. But yeah, it's funny all these different cameras and the colors are so different. That's funny. But if YouTube is on this bullshit again, I'm backing everything up. So what's the thing with Harding, the little baby? Didn't Harding just give him a whole stack of money, though, for a birthday or something? And now, yeah. And then I saw somewhere where Harding got arrested. I mean, like, arrested in Paris at the fashion shows and shit. Distraction. It's all a distraction. Like Mr. Brown, he's just a distraction. He ain't saying shit relevant. He ain't saying shit relevant. He continuing just to go after brothers. Just that kind of hate going after brothers. Yeah, Harding is Little Baby's handler. So what kind of beef they gonna have if he's his handler? That's made up beef to make it look like something. Because again, you can look at that video where he's giving him watches and shit. But it's funny. What's funny about that video where he gives him all the money, he takes it back. So he gives it to him. Little Baby takes it and shows the watch off and all this money. And then he gives the shit back to Harding. I don't know if y'all caught that in that video. I'm going to say this too. I don't know how motherfuckers be passing that snuff film. I don't get that shit. Like why you would want to pass that snuff film on. That's you taking on that. That's some macabre ass shit. Why would you want to? I don't want to see a motherfucker get killed. I've witnessed the motherfucker get shot point blank and blow his shit. No good thing to watch a person get shot. So that snuff film shit, I don't get that, where people spreading it and passing it and like, look what happened. It's on Instagram and all that shit. I don't get that. Why would you spread that shit? I don't understand that kind of thinking. But again, we raised by the imbecile psychopaths. We raised by them. So we take on some of that shit. So even though it may not be in melanated people's DNA, a lot of that behavior is with us. A lot of that conditioning. Little Baby's an MK malfunction, so they're going to reprogram him. Yeah, he did it with some honey buns. I don't want to pair with them. Conor McGregor is done. I still like what was his name? The dude who kept doing steroids. Remember when he kicked somebody, Silva? Remember when Silva kicked somebody and you could see his leg broke? I was running that shit back and forth in slow motion, and I couldn't tell how he got hurt. Now, what did he sock him in that leg? Or he makes a kick at the dude, so I don't know. It was like couldn't figure out where he got hurt. So it wasn't as easy and plain to see as Silva that he needed surgery. So, but like they said, McGregor is the biggest name they got. Did he deserve that match? Hell no, he didn't deserve that match. He's washed up. But watching McGregor is like watching Ali when he at the end of his career. So that's all you seeing. He's the name. So they're gonna make the name get money and pay-per-view. Like who would pay-per-view that shit? Why would you want to pay-per-view that bullshit? And then the other fight coming on in a couple weeks, and it's like after what happened to the last one with Fury, why would you want to watch that? It's crazy how they give Ross a pass for this. He stole the original identity and reaping the benefits. T.I. the snitch came back and did a Crime Stopper commercial. I think steroids make the bones weak and the muscles. Yeah. I mean, gosh, I should have brought this picture. Maybe tomorrow, if I do a show tomorrow, I'll show us. It's a picture of Ali in his final years. And, when he came back after they banned him, he came back, he had to get, he had real bad bursitis. So to fight, he had to get his hands numb. And you look at Ali before he died, and you look at the condition of them hands from getting steroids shot in them, all his fights. Look at just look at Ali if you want to see how much steroids eat bone. Steroids eat bone. My own doctor told me that. Steroids eat bone. So you getting these, like I used to get injections in my hips because my hips is kind of fucked up. Steroids eat bones. And I've got that problem. I've got the disease also where steroids have hurt some of my body. I've got whatever disease you call it, and they come from steroids. And when them doctors was shooting me with that shit, they wasn't saying that shit. And then I go in and they do all this work, and it's like, well, you got the kind of thing. Like my left hip is deteriorating. So every day it works. So I'm thankful that I ain't got to get this shit replaced. But they've already seen deterioration, and I'm born I'm born deformed because my hip sockets don't fit. I've had my sockets fall out. Now, not when out my career, but as an older person, and that's the most paralyzing injury I've ever had, where it pretty much paralyzed me. Your fucking hip comes off, you ain't going nowhere. I was walking, and luckily my sons was right there to help me, and they grabbed me, and I mean I literally could not move until I got my hip back in place. So, yeah, I watched that shit on the Fire Stick. Oh, they canceled the Fury fight? Okay, I did see something about, yeah, okay. They want to. Okay, I saw that. I see that Dana White is doing with McGregor. He still uses his name to build younger fighters. Exactly. Connor's the male Ronda Rousey that exposed, who was protected by White. Exactly. Once they saw they couldn't make money off her, and then she wrestled. She wrestled in 4 or 5 years to get that extra money. So it's all it's all scripted. It is. That's why with McGregor, he ain't like Silva, where his leg just shattered and you could see it shatter. So I don't know, guys. It is interesting. It is very interesting. That damn just saw the gecko lizard throw up the diamond. Yeah, he did. He sure did. He sure did throw up the diamond. I saw that shit too. But you see this all the time, and that's anime. That's anime. Connor would be good for the WWE. Yeah, he will. I agree. That's probably his next move. Don't be surprised. I'll tell you, of all sports, I really enjoy watching WWE. I do, because despite it being scripted, it still gets the ratings. Rick Ross stole the name of Freeway Ricky Ross, but Freeway was selling dope for the CIA. Rick Ross goes by the name Rose. There you go. And that's right. Rick Ross was working for the CIA. But all the dope dealers, Big Meech, the boy that got Williams in D.C., shit, Williams was in D.C. snitching and still selling cocaine. So, like Escobar, El Chapo, these is all CIA people. Since the first heroin came over to America, they had their hands in it. And most people say they was only in Afghanistan for the heroin. What happened in Afghanistan? Heroin became more prevalent. And as I said many times, when I was in Michigan and I stopped hustling and I moved out of the city I was living in, I said the person that changes people over to heroin is going to make a killing. Now, I didn't consider that most Europeans like crystal meth. Now, a lot of Europeans like heroin, and then remember in Pennsylvania, I think it was Philadelphia, they had shooting centers where you could go into this center and boom, and if you fall out, they got narco to bring you back. They will give you narco to take home now. I don't know if people knew that. If you were a heroin addict, they'll give you the shit to take it home. So be like, baby, I'm about to take one. You see, if this shit is really good, because that's the thing with heroin. They don't know how good this shit is. If the shit's any good, baby, and you see me start plugging out, just and you see them eyes roll back in their head and they start ODing. Your partner just, and this is the thing. Your partner would see that the shit is good and see you ODing. She would turn around and say, or he or she would turn around and say, I want some of that. When junkies hear that somebody OD'd off some shit, they be wanting the shit that people OD off of. They be like, yeah, so-and-so OD'd last night. Motherfucker like, let's go see who he got that shit from. But they will give you the narco. You just go in and be like, hey, I'll shoot this shit. And give me some narco. And they'll give you some narco. It's Big Meech and his brother. Remember Big Meech's brother too. Big Meech's brother was in L.A. So that they was allowed. All of them. Deep Cover shows you Scarface was an agent. That's why you see all these New York rappers in the 80s and 90s talking about they like to come up. Scarface came up because he was an agent. But Deep Cover shows it to you perfectly. Agent murdered another dope dealer. Remember, they told him, you got to take out this other dope dealer. He was agent. So they told you in movies that these is fucking agents. So, but yeah, Nick Barnes, Frank Lucas, and wasn't nobody going over to Vietnam, going into fucking Laos, going into the Golden Triangle, bringing that shit back and making deals like that. How did he go into a war area? Like, if you think of Frank Lucas, how did Frank Lucas be able, a civilian, how was he able to go to a war area? All that shit was in war. So, do you think they really locked up, or are they chilling in another country? Probably not locked up. Just like the Godmother. I mean, the Godmother is a prime example that that they was working with her. Tons found in one of them fucking Mayflower-like ships. That was hers. They put the indictments down. They looking for her. She just goes to Florida. And you could have went and got her. They didn't go to get her. But and remember this: when the godmother goes to Florida, that's when the CIA, FBI started drive-bys. That was started by our government. The idea of a drive-by shooting started in Miami by our government agents shooting at motherfuckers, riding up, and because that's how they would do in other countries. And so this is the thing, and this is what, and how do I want to say this? Okay, other countries are rough. If you say shit against them, they can take you out. I understand that. But this country ain't no different. If you start to affect 1 million people with your rap, they will kill you. And I don't mean as a rapper. I'm saying as your message. So this country ain't no different. But you see, people that work for them people, they will bring them stories up. Let me say that again. People that have previously worked for them people, they will bring those stories up of how rough it is in other countries compared to America. Because they work for them people. So when you listen to people, you got to keep that as like, you saying that, but you work for them people. Now, I ain't going to say no names, but when you work for them people, you still always work for them people. So how serious can we take you? Because you work for them people. So just because you get out of it, you still work for them people. So your ideas that come out is in the perspective. And when I listen to it, I'm like, you work for them people. You can't look at my shit and say, I ever work for the motherfuckers. Yeah, I was a cop, but I didn't work for the fucking government. I worked for a city. Matter of fact, my first job was I was a cop at the university. And then a fucking other small town. And I ain't never quit selling cocaine back then because I saw how that shit went. I told the story in Kalamazoo, Michigan, 22 keys missing out of evidence locker. Ain't no cameras or nothing on that shit. And you can't tell me that shit wasn't the inside job. Chief get to take another job. One of my relatives that was the under chief gets to retire. 7 or 8 of the high command get to retire. Don't none of them get arrested for that shit. And the cocaine taken out that evidence locker within days was back on the street because I know who they took it from. So the government was always involved. Should I tell this story? No, I'm not going to tell that story. There's it's a bunch of stories like that. CIA boys being controlled by the puppet masters. Apparently every dealer was Scarface. There you go. They was. That's the way to put it, homie. Almost every dealer was Scarface. Deep Cover is a more accurate movie than American Gangster and Scarface. There you go. What's going on in Haiti? Again, our governments had their foot in their ass. And this is what doesn't make sense about Haiti. This is what you got to understand. If you check the history. When the French was fully in control of Haiti, Haiti was the most prosperous part of America. Let me say that again. When the French was controlling Haiti, Haiti was the most prosperous island in America. So you telling me that it went from that, and then when they kicked the motherfuckers out of there because of the magic had a big part, and I've told before. Some of them French soldiers said they was getting fucked up and wasn't no people fucking them up. They was getting cut up and sliced up. Wasn't no people behind them knives and sickles. It was just that shit flying through the air. That's why they quit going on the land. And they just circled the island with ships and shit. How did England and America come to Haiti, come to them French's aid? Because that's what they did. And they made them pay millions and broke the country. Because it was the first country that said, fuck you, we going to be brothers again. And they've kept them poor since then. Remember, they was occupied from what? Haiti was occupied from 1920 until what? The late 50s? It was American troops down there. And now these motherfuckers talking about going into Cuba. They got enough agents over there that they talking about might send troops to Cuba. Al Pacino has some movies 19 years before Scarface, where exposes police corruption. What's the name of that movie? I can't think. Serpico. Yeah, Serpico. Yep. It was 7 years prior. And the other thing is American Gangsters. Check this out. American Gangster. Remember they mentioned Gene Hackman was in The French Connection. And what did Frank Lucas say? Frank Lucas, in that Frank Lucas movie, they tell on each other. They said, what do they say? They said that all that shit that they went through the French Connection to bust that connection, that this, what I was saying about shit being stolen from evidence locker. What did they say in American Gangsters? The heroin that was taken from the French Connection was sold by the police department of New York. And they try to say a couple of detectives, no, it was the whole force getting some of that. So that's how they always did it. So it's a lie. So they've always, that's why the war on drugs was a war on us. It was a war on us, and we didn't understand that. And that had to do with them storming the Capitol with agents. You know, that's the thing. It was like I put a thing on Facebook about, I shared what my friend said about Fred Hampton, and that was the beef with the East Coast Panthers compared to that West Coast Panthers. They kind of figured out these motherfuckers out there as agents, controlled opposition. Blanco, that's Breonna Taylor tried to be, and it didn't end well for her. I don't know about that. I don't know if she was that serious like that. Hey, Jody, thanks for joining. Now, that movie came out in 73. Scarface came out in 83. I know because I was born in 83. Well, you didn't get to watch it in 83. If you was born in 83, how you watch it? Hated the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, economically quiet, but the richest one due to natural resources. I'm just playing, Lorenzo. I'm just joking. I meant 10 years. Yeah. But yeah, Haiti shouldn't be that. And you don't think that Puerto Rico and Haiti is getting hit with them tropical storms on accident? It ain't an accident, especially Haiti. Ever since Haiti kicked ass, they did not want. They want to keep them people in squalor, and it shouldn't be. All the natural resources there shouldn't be in squalor. And again, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I'm just saying you got to look at people that say shit. And when I look at, I take their opinion on, okay, if you work for them people, what do they say? Once CIA, always CIA. So once you work for them people, you kind of always work for them people. And that's how it is. Once you work for them people, you always work for them. Once CIA, always CIA. Remember in JFK? So when you hear people that's got them backgrounds, you got to go, who you work for? Who you work for? So you ain't really giving it up, because if you would really give it up, you work for these motherfuckers, so you can't give up too much. So you ain't coming from the prospect of being a revolutionary. Because if you work for them people, you'll never be a revolutionary. And so when you compare these other countries, that ain't how a revolutionary speaks. Revolutionary points out what's wrong where you at. Fuck what them other countries do. When you're a revolutionary, you say what's wrong right here. You don't even mention how the fuck it is somewhere else. You dealing with right here, because that's a diversion. By mentioning what the fuck is going on in another country is a fucking diversion. So you can't compare it. Your circumstances is fucked up because these bloodlusty motherfuckers that run this shit, and it's people that work for them through history. And a lot of poor people, a lot of poor people work for them. Let's be honest. Most poor people graduate from high school. You see all the people that are going to college, getting loans or whatever, and you want to leave. You don't want to be the motherfucker stuck there working at McDonald's or saying you want hot wax with that. So you a poor person joins the military so they can go to fuck somewhere. Did you see Judas and the Black Messiah? Yes, I did. And it's funny. I was driving through Chicago where that motherfucking Willie O'Keefe is supposed to die. Don't nobody walk on, when you on the Dan Ryan or the Eisenhower or the Kennedy, ain't nobody walking out there. Ain't nobody walking out. You can't walk. Fuck. It's part of the Dan Ryan or the Eisenhower and the Kennedy. It's part of that shit that's 8 lanes. Matter of fact, it would be some parts of it damn near 10 lanes. Who trying to walk across that shit? If you break down, there's boxes and you calling motherfucker. You ain't trying to walk across that shit. And they say Willie O'Keefe was trying to walk across the highway in Chicago. Yeah, someone was after his ass. No one in Haiti is jabbed. 3 presidents who refused the jab now dead. Wow, thank you for putting that out. Wow. I looked it up. That's why one of my favorite movies because the year I was born. I was just joking. You seen the spreadsheet that show whenever Tom Brady lived through his whole life, that City sports team became a dynasty. Michigan didn't become a dynasty under his ass. He didn't even start at Michigan. Once you're in the gang, you're always in the gang. There you go. One of my favorite Eddie movies is Trading Places. Yes, it is. My favorite line in Trading Places is he was like, I think I can hang with y'all. I love that shit. I think I can hang with y'all. Grew up in San Fran, 49ers dynasty, Detroit Red Wings dynasty, played New England, Red Sox became, good point. Phoenix is going to beat the dollar buck, new money system coming. Okay, we'll see. I just don't think so. The coast beef between the Panthers was used to have the coastal beef in hip hop. That's a good point. Red Wings did it. Yeah, that's a good point. The coastal beef was later transferred to the made up thing of hip hop. And, they took over hip hop and renamed it. And what was the song, the dude from down south saying, get the jab up or some shit? I wouldn't even watch that shit. I was just reading it. Just show you. You have a hit record. You work for them peoples. You work for them people. So, and again, don't nobody take it to heart. You work for them people. I got friends that work for them people. That's okay. You work for them people. I know I know where your mindset is. But it's like I can take your information in and still be like that little light there. He said this, but he worked for them people. He said this, but he worked for them people. You dig. And they're trained. So. We just know where you're coming from. That's all. You ain't broke away from that shit. Because let me tell you, my brother went in the Air Force. My brother was in the Air Force, was a radar operator. Don't you know that shit don't transfer when you go? They should make you, when you have those skills, to set that shit up in the middle of the field and follow people coming in and out. You should be able to go to any place in America and be a radar operator. Don't work like that, though. It's so fucked up. If you were MP in the Army, had all that training, when you try to go to a police academy, the police department, they make you do the academy all over again, which makes no fucking sense. Why ain't the Army helping their people better? That's why my brother, even though he worked with them motherfuckers, he ain't spouting that shit. He ain't talking that shit. He ain't talking about the units and the shit. He's totally divorced from that shit. He don't never talk about it. I got a bunch of other partners. They don't talk about that shit. They don't spout the units and the shit they did and that they cool with so-and-so. They ain't cool with the motherfuckers most of the time. Ones I know. They don't talk. They ain't cool with the military people. They totally divorced themselves. But if you ain't divorced from that shit, you keep that loop going. That's all. You think they try to do door-to-door jabs? Record companies are cartels, yeah. Hey, Edward, what's happening? Yeah, you now. He said, you a handsome young man. Won't you vax that thing up? You think they really going door-to-door? Don't mean you got to answer. Because what they're saying is they're going to go to door to see. What's the song? I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. So, catch me in the store or some shit. And I'll say this, and I ain't going to show this shit on camera, but my daughter showed me her card. And my daughter's only 15. She showed me her card, and I got a stack of them motherfuckers. I'm like, oh, and then her mom's like, well, you're tied to every this, and you're tied to every that. And I'm looking at her card. She ain't even had a sticker on it. The ones they give in Michigan is just I got them cards. I told motherfuckers I can copy that shit. So I got cards that show the shit and the vial numbers. It ain't hard to fake what they got now. Now, in 10 years, it'll be a little harder. But right now, it's just like, da-da. You want to go on a plane? Da-da. I should sell them motherfuckers, too. I know people selling that shit. But, I just want, I've got a little bit of I like to copy shit. Where did the interview on CNN that they was low dissing him? I watched the NBA since MJ was drafted. I will never watch again after you expose basket manipulation. And PNF, Eagles are the bomb at gmail.com. I definitely want to kick it with you. I definitely want to kick it with you because it's a lot we can go over. Yeah, they had it over here. Yeah, I mean, I watch it because, again, you know, I know when I say I'm the holder, but I take that shit seriously. There's a religious part of the ball game that we ain't told about. You can go to any field, and let me get that Kundalini out. Let me give it out. You can go to a playground. You can go anywhere where children are moving or games are played. That's the spiritual part of it. If you are grieving, a ball field is a perfect place to go for the grief. Like I've said before, you got these goofies in Mexico or South America trying to go up an angle to hit a ball with their hip through the fucking hoop. Is that the stupidest shit you ever watched? When they're obviously grieving ball courts. The courts are metaphors. Ain't nobody trying to go up an angle. You on the ground floor, and then you got to jump up the angle, and then you go on the angle, and you got to hit it in your hip through this hole. I'm like, these are some dumb motherfuckers, but they keeping the lie going because they don't want you to know the spiritual side of this continuous ball game. There's a spiritual side to it. We're not taught that. We're not taught that even exists. There's a spiritual side to it. And they don't want Americans connected to it, especially melanated people. They do not want you connected to it. So let me put this in here. Oh, it's funny driving. You know, I just wondered all these years why, like, when I would get frustrated with driving and my dyslexia, it's like when I come to a thing where it's a one road go this way and one road go that way, with dyslexia, it's hard for me to really like get it right because I'll see like both ways and that's like both things say the same thing. It has always bothered me. I've had that trouble since I was in my 20s and I didn't realize it was dyslexia so that should be fucking with me. I'll see like, and I'm like, where do I go? Where do I go? Hey, so thank you for joining me. Eagles are, let's see. So I think that's it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you know, it's been a rough, you know, last 10 days have been rough, but, you know, life goes on. When we talk about Euro soccer, anything to Italy winning or the international, I don't know. Like it was funny seeing them, like you see the story that British people, you know, and British people are more African. They are more African. You know, we know that they're more African. But it's funny, you know, CNN had them on. You know, all of a sudden they getting chants and all this shit, and they're doing the bowing down. I can understand British people bowing down because they bow down to the queen. But when you look at Cap, he wants you to bow down. When I was young, we didn't stand up for that shit. Shit, I didn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance starting in third grade. And you get Pledge of Allegiance from kindergarten all the way up. When I was in third grade, my father was like, fuck that shit. He went up to the motherfucker and said, my son will not stand up for this bullshit. So I didn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance from third grade on. I never, everybody up, I'm sitting. I ain't bowing. I ain't on one knee. I'm sitting down where everybody else singing that shit. That spell. I ain't saying that shit. Where did I put this motherfucker? And I did not stand up for the national anthem until I was forced to technically when I was a junior. So that had been 77, 78. They made you. You couldn't play if you didn't stand up for the national anthem because they had kicked this one dude off the team in the early 70s for not standing up for the national anthem. So I ain't stand up for that shit. And I've said this before. Where I grew up, we would play the European schools. The European school would stand up for the national anthem, and you looked at the brothers and sisters, they didn't stand up for that shit. That's how I grew up, and that's pride. They was like, fuck you. That shit don't represent us. We ain't standing up for that shit. We ain't saluting that shit. Fuck that shit. That shit don't represent us. And then 11th, 12th grade, and then when I went to college, I had to stand up for that shit. Hell, I had to sit through the Lord's Prayer because my college coach said it before every game. The England fans will set the city on fire for a soccer match, but not their freedom. That's a good point. Glad to hear your spirits up. Well, thank you, CJ Jordan. Thank you. They never played the second verse. I didn't participate in the pledge as a child either. There you go. Giannis is the modern day Shaq. I don't know about that. He is very one-dimensional. He hasn't really, like Shaq, what Shaq had to do is Shaq had end up doing a jump hook, and it made him a more effective player once he could make free throws in his jump hook. And I think the free throws was a distraction too, because they can manipulate shots even with Shaq played. Even with Shaq played, they manipulated shots. They didn't. They had us doing that Masonic hand gesture when we was kids. There you go. I mean, Jay-Z had motherfuckers throwing up the diamond like it was a good thing. Shit, my stupid ass, I ain't know what that shit meant. I hadn't studied enough. I got a picture of me like at 14 or 13 doing that shit just because it seemed cool to do. Like my Facebook picture, I can't even take that shit off. Because they've got my Facebook account so fucked up that I can get into it, but I can't change much. That's why I got a couple. I feel such an idiot for reciting their pledge my entire time. I was brainwashed into it in 6th grade, so a kid get ridiculed for not doing it. There you go. There you go. And this is the thing. Like we when you look at Memorial Day, look up the Memorial Day picture that the first brothers and sisters that buried the Union soldiers. Look it up. They did this. You did the Nazi salute while they sang that shit. It wasn't until World War II that they stopped making people Nazi salute. But when they put that shit in schools, you hailed Caesar. Because that's what that shit really means, is hail Caesar. I know people say hail Hitler. It really means hail Caesar. And that's how it was. You did this. Look it up. Look up right now. Somebody just look that picture up on Pinterest. The first Memorial Day. You got all these black folks, one person holding the flag, and the rest of them is hailing Caesar. And that shit didn't stop until 1941. I got uncles and aunts that was, when they was alive, that's what they'll say it too. When they was in one room, school rooms, hail Caesar. When they had to say that shit. So fuck this country. That's why I could have never fought for these motherfuckers. Never. These bloodlust. And they make us bloodlust. And that's the problem. They make us turn into bloodlust. And now they're using our youth. They want 14, 15-year-old killers because they give them this medicine, ADHD medicine, ADD medicine, kill their emotions. And then you start giving them guns and playing tag with guns. You playing tags with guns. That's what we see. Who I smoke society. I used to think the hand gesture was a 5-point star, so I couldn't be caught by my people throwing that up because I was family of the GDs. I had cousins that was fucking Blackstones. I had cousins that was Blackstones. Matter of fact, should I tell this story? Maybe not. No, I'm not gonna tell that story. But I got cousins that was Blackstones. I watched Blackstones shut the city down. That's how tough they was. Blackstones came into Battle Creek, Michigan in 65 or 66, about 30 cars deep. Yeah, shut Battle Creek down. Police department, no one was fucking with them when they came through. And this was 66 or 67. Ghost town. Well, nobody fucking with them. The Michigan police didn't fuck with them. Nobody fucked with them. They came from Chicago to Battle Creek, and that's a good 3-hour trip. Yeah. When they got into Battle Creek, everything shut down. Everybody was like, went in. They told the police, take lunch. These niggas is coming with guns, and we not fucking with them. And you never saw any other gangs do that, go town to town like that and shut towns down. That's when, they was about to throw down on real folks. I used to think that becoming a superstar script is familiar with LeBron at the beginning of his career as well. Definitely, but he looked like Nate Thurman. What do you think are the absolute 3 worst aspects about my country? About this country? European mental illness called European supremacy. That's number one. And that would be number two. And the third one is classism. You know, the thing that why they really killed Fred, and it shows in the movie, but people that know, when he had the Rainbow Coalition, you see how they fucked up what Fred started called the Rainbow Coalition? Because Fred looked at it, classism. And that's what these imbecile psychopaths don't understand. And the dying of whiteness talks about this. You ask a poor person that's going to benefit from Obamacare, but yet he's convinced that it costs too much. He's listening to the parroting. They parrot to some shit. He listened to these conservatives that parrot shit. And then they parrot that, what they hear. They don't do any research about what they watch on TV, and then they parrot the shit. But classism, and that's what Fred said. I want the poor Mexicans to work with us. I want the poor whites to work with us. And Jesse Jackson copies it after Fred is assassinated, calls it Operation Breadbasket, Operation Push. And Jesse's an agent. But I'll say this, even agents do good work sometimes, because Jesse, remember, Jesse was like, how are you going to look at two people? You got a European, and Europeans tend to do powder and sell powder. European gets caught with 3 ounces of powder, and you got a person that gets caught with 3 ounces of crack, and it's different. Their prison time is different. And Jesse pointed that out. Like, how is it different? Now, Michigan, they was like, if you got 365 grams, that's your ass. And let me tell you, I got a G. One of my friends played football in Michigan, high school All-American. I didn't have a great career, but it still was Michigan. He gets set up, motherfucker get busted, and he gets set up, and dude set him up. They got 3 keys. He's in jail for about 6 months. Then his people came by and dropped $250,000 on his wife. 16 years, he didn't say shit. He comes out, one of his teammates in Michigan give him a job. He used to ref with me. He started reffing with my crew. He ain't snitch. So he's in good standing. He did 16 years. He had that life without parole. The Michigan was giving you 365 grams. He had that. He did 16 years. But not one time did he snitch. And now he's doing well. Michigan, he get, again, if you play college football at a team, you get to go to all that shit free. I go to A&T, I just go to the gate and tell them I used to play at A&T. They'll give me a pass and I get to stand on the sideline. And I ain't been down there since 88. I ain't been to homecoming since 88. But since I'm an ex-player, but my friend gets all that too at Michigan. So he's in the fold because this nigga didn't snitch. He stood on his square. And that's a motherfucking man for you. That's a motherfucker that took it. He took it in the chin. And we got a lot of pussy motherfuckers. And what they did, they want to tell on everybody. I remember, like my dad used to say, it was motherfuckers that tell on their mama. Well, you know, my mom would sell 10 rocks a day. You know, motherfuckers tell on their mama. Bacon's Rebellion. Anyone seen Space Jam yet for symbolism? I haven't seen. I should look tonight and see if it's downloaded yet. Broad question. What do you think of that? So that's what I think, homie. Bacon's Rebellion. Yeah, Bacon's Rebellion was what they changed and tried to make. See, it was just WASP. WASP is the elites in this country. That's why in government class they teach you about WASP. That's who you ain't. You know, Bacon Rebellion made them say, "Oops, we got to make these non." Because only whites is Anglo-Saxon Protestant is what they call white folks. What was the true European? The rest of these, they call them lumbers. They call them all kind of names. Sterilizing these motherfuckers for years. They ain't them. Now they make them think they did. Chicago's always been a gangster city. That's before the melanated gangs. Matter of fact, the murders were worse. Oh, yeah. Look at shit. Like, that's the thing about Chicago. And Chicago dudes, I'll say that, is more apt to gang up. That's one thing I've noticed too. Is a lot of cats I knew in Chicago was more apt to gang. It was like they may not have been a part of a gang, but I watched how some of them moved, and they always moved in like groups. Like, what is this dude's paper here? Well, I ain't gonna tell his daddy name, but his first name is Jeff. I know one of his sons. One of his sons live here, and they used to run a magazine here. His daddy's name is Jeff. I ain't gonna say his last name, but he's here, and but he's cliquey. I noticed just knowing him, he's very cliquey, and I've just noticed some of the Chicago brothers be cliquey. So it's like they're looking to join gangs, but again, during the gangster eras, there was also gangs. So, hey, Mark, what's happening? Barack Obama, yes, we can, came from Larry Hoover. Thank you for joining, Mark. Remember when they sent Hampton to prison because he assaulted an ice cream trucker? Yeah, they did love to steal. Yeah, see, that's how dirty it was. And it was almost like whoever did it was some Robin Hood shit. They was throwing the shit to the children. So it wasn't like whoever robbed that ice cream truck was robbing it for, gang. It was throwing that shit, It was like Soledad brother. Soledad brother was fucking riding with a dude who robbed a gas station. He did a plea bargain. And this dude got he didn't even get a sentence. This dude had a continued sentence. Where do you get that? What kind of person gets a continuous sentence like a death, like life, for fucking robbing a gas station? You was driving. You were driving. That's what they did to the Soledad brother, Jackson. He got shot in the courtyard, California. Because once he was up in there, he writing these beautiful words and breaking down America. So they killed him up in there. And that's another way to be assassinated. We know. They like the Nino Brown on New Jack City. It's bigger than Nino Brown. I am going down. I am taking a lot of the motherfuckers with me. But remember, he also said Uzis ain't made in Harlem. What do you think about the rise of the Moors? Well, I would tell the whole truth. To fully use my time walking powers, I have to ally with the Moors to fully use my abilities, because the time walkers have always worked with the Moors. The time walkers helped them defeat the old Roman Empire. So when I find noble Moors, I have no problem rocking with them. The problem is, I haven't found a lot of noble people. And it hurts me because it hurts my ability. Now, I do think on here, there's a brother on here that I think is a noble person. And so I support him. And this is what people don't understand. This is what people don't understand about how you can support someone. You don't have to agree with them to support them. But this is the thing. It's like this. While you're supporting them, you put yourself in that position of the information they're presenting. And you look at where they're coming from, the way they present the information. So you can hear them. Because if you don't put yourself in that position, you can't even hear what the person is saying. So I don't know if it's a rise. I don't know if that's the correct way to look at it. But I have nothing negative to say. And when I find noble Moors, it's kind of like almost my duty to support noble Moors. I'll say that. Now, I found a lot of them that weren't. And I'll say Asir's name in there. I was doing videos with Asir, came on my talk show back in 2017. Had him on twice. Now, I had to call the Grand Sheik down in Miami, which is Hito Paul's cousin. That's down in Miami, and the Grand Sheik was like, this, and this about this brother. He ain't with us. He lived with them Jews. He lived with Jewish faith people. He's like, you see them videos he doing? Where you think he at? He told me to park. He said, why you think he over there? He don't do any work in our community. This is the Grand Sheik in Miami telling me this. This is in Miami. Like, this dude live in Miami. Why ain't he working with the temple in Miami? He lived down there, and he ain't doing any work. And even though my brother was the only Moor in Lansing, Michigan, my brother is still doing work in the community. He had no temple to go with. He took it on his own to go out and help the community. They're going to take him down like the L. Ripkins. L. Ripkins was working with Gaddafi, and they was trying to get a Stinger missile. U.S. is going to fall like ancient Rome. It's the same as Rome. That's what these people really believe in, is Babylon, Yabatha, and Marduk. That's what they believe in. That's what Rome is. Rome is Jewish faith. They believe in Yabatha. That's what they believe in. They believe in Marduk Yabatha. That's what they believe in. And that's they under Babylon. See, the more scares not doing the true teaching of I don't know. PNF does. He teaches that. Overstand is traveling. What's a time walker? Well, Turtle Gang gave me the time walking papers in 11 or 12. And the time walking papers are made by Meredith Quinn. And Meredith Quinn shows where there's a group of people that have helped humankind, but they were not controlled by time. They walked on light. And again, I've talked about before light, there's color and there's sound. And so time walkers walk on time. They're before time. It's almost going into Hanukkah. That's why getting the time walking papers led me to the South America and the understanding of awareness. And so when you truly want to fuck with creation, and it's inside of you, this time walking stuff, it's like I'm the only one. I'm the only time walker. And this, I've only given it to one other person. That's my brother. And I've tried to send it to people and the shit won't send. But he's giving it to me. They've erased it off my shit and I had to call him, hey, send it back to me. So on creations, there's this ability that is part of Hanukkah, which is one movement, one measure. If it moves, it gets counted. And so the time walkers kind of came in like that. And they've kind of monitored the civilization as it went by. And so it hits every so many people. It's shrunk very little. Most people, if I put the information out there, wouldn't even want it. When it works with gematria, gemancy, divination, it works with all that. But it gets into really the creation, on how you can be part of the creation. And if you can understand how the creation comes in and how you can even have foresight, visions, goes into a lot of this crystal stuff I teach too. So that's a vague way to talk about them, but that's kind of what it is. That's kind of what a time walker is. It's a person. It's a energy that's always been around, especially that helps mankind. That actually helps mankind. So I guess I don't know how much more I can say about it. Do you think the sacred ball game was really played with sideways basket using the hip? I read it was playing full-blown basketball in Florida during the Mayan time. Of course, it was full-blown basketball. I mean, I talk about, going back in the past and playing on the bigger court, and they did kick the ball. Like there was regular big courts, not that sideways shit. There was regular wide courts, and you had the hoops on both sides. And you had all different leagues. You had children's leagues, you had adult leagues, you had women's leagues. And you did have to hit it off your hip, but there was nothing against throwing it. There was nothing against dunking it. So, I started playing and I'm like, and this is some brick shit holding it in there. You could just slam that motherfucker in there. You could just throw it. The coolest thing that back in that period that I did was I was be able to get a perfect bank, throw it and bank it in. And they hadn't thought of that. And so, yeah, that bullshit on the slant is some bullshit. It's fields, it's regular fields, but it's many different ways to play it. If you go in how it was created because again, when they made things out of rubber. There was leftover rubber, and the children just would pick that shit up and start throwing it at each other. Then somebody caught it with a basket, somebody dodged it, somebody hit it with the basket, and all the games from the Americas come with it. And as I said before, you look at how when it moved through America, they started playing in Arizona with the bowls. Look that up. Look at the bowls in America, up in Arizona. And that turns into the Rose Bowl, the Super Bowl. This is what they copied. The sacred ball game played in bowls. And then, you know, the bringing with the sticks, lacrosse. I mean, it's no accident that this shit is from America and played with America. But like you were saying, full-blown hooping, full-blown soccer, full-blown lacrosse for thousands of years. And this is something that Americans, these WASP, have taken over. I heard Osir was trying to sell paperwork. I will agree, he was. And that was part of why I was pissed at him, because I felt used. I felt he used my platform to try to sell shit for the people. And like the thing that hurt me was like, it was the dude there that was, this dude was a paraplegic. This dude was on something like $600 a month. And Osir was still trying to work out a deal on how much he could pay him per month for this paperwork. And that ain't capping. That's the story. And, you know, when I came to it, I was like, well, I can't be mad at this motherfucker. He didn't do the shit to me. I was too smart. But I felt used, but he didn't do anything to me. But he did this to this paraplegic dude, had him paying whatever he was charging a month until he paid it off. And it was something like $500 or $600. So, yeah, he was. What made the writing system of the Mayans not take full grasp here in America? I don't know if I agree with that, because if you get back into the petroglyphs that's all around Americas, you find Shivas in America. And if you don't know what a Shiva, look up Shiva stones. You find Shivas up and down New England, but you find very similar petroglyphs that you find in South America writing. So I don't know if it wasn't fully grasped, but you have to look at a count as when the Oman came through the Mississippi and came up through there, some of these systems were used. Some of these systems you still kind of seeing used. Is that my son? Yeah, it is my son. So some of these systems was used, and it's changed because the way that the county systems changed. But the main thing is the way the seasons. I would say that's the biggest rate. The seasons are slightly different in the Americas than they were down there, and so that's why the county system is not the same. That's why the way the star charting and the movement of the planets was not the same, because the seasons were different. So that's one of the biggest things.
You think you called now, huh? You think you called now, huh?
No, Nat ordered, she said she had 100 of them.
The bitches is tough. Let me get some.
What?
The buttons, you got 100?
Yeah, you have to ask her. You have to ask Nat. She gave me like 8. She put them in hers. I didn't know what the fuck that shit was. What, gibbets?
You got a little football one and a basketball one?
Yeah, she gave me a football one and a basketball one.
Oh, yeah, they're tough.
Really? Okay.
All right.
Gibbets? Is that the shit you put on Crocs? Oh, yeah, PNF, he was selling paperwork, and that was in 17. And my brother went through the process, and, you know, he'll tell you today the shit wasn't nothing. But, yeah, 17, he was selling paperwork. No doubt. And no cap. Definitely no cap on that. And it's not even, it's funny, on my talk shoe, none of that shit from 17 is still out there. For some reason, when I didn't do it for a while, when I went back in, it ain't on there. But yeah, Osir was definitely selling paperwork. Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely selling paperwork. Can't say he wasn't. He was. It was on talk shoe with me and others. And like I said, the thing that fucked me up is that dude in the wheelchair. The dude, matter of fact, for him to even participate on my show, he had to have somebody else. So we always had to kind of wait until his person that could be on the phone and type for him. And that fucked me up. It's like, I'm listening to this dude's life story, you know, and you taking advantage of him. It was hard for me to fuck with him. What paperwork? I had more, and I still don't know what to pay. Exactly. David, what's happening? But yeah, he was. But yeah, you find Shiva Ligams even though on the East Coast too. You find them if you look in, I ain't got the book right here, but the outside of New England, in New England areas, you see Shivas too. But you do see Shivas if you go west. What you have to understand too is, like, okay, give you an example. You know, certain times of the sun pyramid, the Quetzalcoatl come down the stairs. Well, the same thing happened to parts of America where you would see the petroglyphs, and there would be times of year where the petroglyphs came alive. And so if you really look at creation stories and how people learned, the petroglyphs, seeing them once a year would be downloads. And so the people, as civilization built, would go to these places once a year, and these petroglyphs would come alive, and those was downloads. And so every year they would get a download from the petroglyphs. So yeah, I'll bring the book out. There's a lot of some goofy shit I don't agree, but those points you have to understand how ancient that stuff is. So Mayan remains found to have sickle cell. They're definitely our people, West Africa. I used to be a grocery bagger for the Rim and balled up socks, play basketball. There you go. That video series before I will finish him. Yeah, that's, history wise, he's pretty cool, but he can't get away that he was selling that shit. West Africa before the colonization. So, you can get into that. Well, guys, 2 hours. I'm still really tired. And my energy is picking up, though. My energy is picking up. But again, in the last 6-7 days, it's been very and thank you. I'll say this, and I'm sorry I didn't say this. Thank you for the support. I want to say that. Thank you for the support, all the well wishes and condolences. I appreciate that. I do. And it helps lift me and my family, because losing, like my mother, at 80 and losing a grandchild is heartbreaking. And it's like, even though he had his problems, it's still one of us. And then, I'm an ampy. My family comes from the New England area, going back at least 1400, probably even before. But we can say we was here in 1400, and we lose that kind of blood. It's like every generation there's been a bad car accident that people get killed in, and that's a curse I have to break as well, because he's the sixth. My nephew would have been. I'm fifth generation from a full-blooded person. Well, two full-blooded melanated people out of the Americas. I'm the fifth generation from them on both sides. Actually, both sides of my family, I'm the fifth generation. So when we lose an ampy person, it hurts, because I know all the blood and all the DNA and the memory that he had. And so when one of ours gets taken out, we kind of look at it. Like, I had one cousin that broke his hip some kind of way in his small apartment. And I don't know who gave him the permission to change his hip, but they gave him the full hip, new hip. And after they did that, he never woke up. And then his brother was suffering from emphysema. Actually, wasn't even emphysema. He had a lung disease that he didn't even know he had. But he smoked cigarettes. He smoked weed, but he smoked cigarettes too, since he was probably 15, 16, 17. And with the lung disease, and he got tired of having to live with oxygen. And he gave up. And I told you how I had to find him. Paperwork is when you claim Moorish sovereignty or get your Social Security card and license back in so-called diplomacy paper with seals on them or something like that. Well, it was a little more than that, but basically what he was doing was basically some of that, saying that it was make you a sovereign person and all that bullshit. It was the same thing. It was the same scam that you see others do. So he can't deny that. He can't deny that. Thank you, Overstand. Thank you. I'm glad. And I appreciate you watching. Late than never. What's going on? Hey, Keith, thank you for joining me. Yeah, it's a scam. Exactly, PNF. It's a scam. It's definitely a scam. And that's why, my brother and I fell out over that shit for a minute. Because, I looked at that shit, was like, hey, it was just like, when the indigenous community was taken over by the Israelites. The Israelite dudes was Israelites, and then all of a sudden the indigenous thing comes on, and you see these Israelites, indigenous, attacking the New York Pan-Africans. So it's the same kind of thing. Thank you. But I will let me see if I can find it. I brought it over here, but I do give this to the time walkers. So as I end with more, and this directly comes from the Time Walking Papers. It all starts with a gentle sadness. They came from their original homeland, So this means they came from somewhere else, but they were civilization builders. They came from their original homeland. They knew that they had an exact number of years and days before they would disappear off the earth as a culture and a lifestyle. And so as they are civilization builders, that's all that their point was, is to start the civilization. And then they move on. So when you look at the Mayans disappearing, you look at the Oman disappearing, but the civilization would build to a gentle love. They lived in the Creator's day and knew how to separate cycles in the great serpent, which is the Milky Way. I am another yourself. So this is Chocolate Mountain Show. I am your host. 8 Wind is timeless. Thank you, everybody. Said the seer be tripping. I mean, the seer is a encyclopedia of information. He really is. He really is. And he's almost in the thing what Bobby could do is take information and make it relatable. I'll give him that. Well, thank you, James. He could take it, and nobody who scammed the name of the prophet. Yeah, it's worthless. It is worthless. You know, that's when I asked my brother, I was like, did anything a seer, did anything you did with him help you? And he said, no, it didn't really help you. So, you know, there was no point of it. It was a type of scam, and he was getting money off it. So, and this is what I found out is you could do everything he was teaching, you could do for yourself. You could do it yourself. You didn't need him to do, you didn't need to give him a penny because you could do it for yourself. That's what got me, is like, you didn't need him to do it. You didn't need to give him $600 for him to tell you what to do. You could find out yourself how to do it. So that was the scam I saw. And then again, what regular person hearing a dude, no, and this guy like tuned into my show all the time. My brother and I would come on. I had Derek from Gematria, GematriaEffects.com or whatever, Derek who created the Gematrinator. I had him on. But this cat, you know, he was, and so I had people that was coming on and people wanted to be part of it. But then I saw it, you know, like I was saying, when I was seeing these Israelites, I was like, these is goat lovers. And I saw the same kind of scam in him, you know, and I called that in 17. And this was 17. So, you know. So, but yeah, that's cold. That's colder than a motherfucker. And that's what made me feel bad. And, you know, I had to look back and I said, well, you know, he didn't scam me, but he used my platform to scam people. And that was like me scamming people. That's kind of how I took it. And I had that joker on there twice, you know, because it took me a minute to really realize. And then this guy that can't afford that, and he's like doing installment payments with these dudes. Oh, you can't pay me the $600. Just we'll make arrangements how much you can send me every month. That's what this motherfucker was saying. I will make arrangements how much you can pay me every month till you pay the $600 off. That's what he was doing. You'd have to simply do business in your new name. Yeah, exactly. But you didn't need him to do it. And that was my point. You didn't need him. It was a scam. So, but me and my brother, we broke bread and we figured out that, you know, he's like, yeah, you saw it. And we're cool now. So, well, guys, again, thank you for the support during this tough time. And might come on tomorrow if I get enough rest. But this has been the Chocolate Mountain Show. Till we meet again.